Okay, Candice, our question of the day. Unlimited amount of money, what's the one thing you would change in all of Disney fandom?
That's a big ask.
It is, but what's your first gut reaction to what would you change in all of Disney fandom if you had all of the money in the Disney world?
I think I would look at making the Disney vacation experience more of an all-inclusive sort of situation.
Okay.
So, like, you could buy packages with your park tickets, with your hotel, with your food included, not like the dining plan, but just as part of the package. And with that, too, I think that would make, like, if the Genie Plus service was included with your park tickets, like Fast Pass used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then also some of the more maybe souvenir-y type things that people spend a lot of time and a lot of money on right now, like popcorn buckets and things
Right.
like that. If that could be part of your package, and so you just pay a one flat fee and have a bunch of perks and a bunch of magic thrown in.
Okay. Okay, so you went the consumer side of unlimited Disney monies.
Sure.
Okay. For me, if I were to have unlimited Disney money, fandom money, I would create a park or resort area where Disney literally could control the weather.
Like a dome.
Have it be a domed area where you would have year-round perfect weather conditions for perfect storytelling.
I like it. And would the weather change based on the story they were trying to tell?
It could. Like, you could go into a different room, and if that story is about fall, it might be a little cooler. You might have falling leaves. You might have some of those kind of things that they could do. Like, truly speaking, unlimited money, that would be freaking awesome.
Yeah, it would be. Or like I can see like during spooky season doing a focus on the villains and having it be kind of dark and stormy and
Right.
but
Without
not
the rain.
Without the rain. And the danger of lightning, but you
Right.
could still do a light show in the sky.
Yeah, if it's domed,
Right.
you could even make it look like it was raining.
Right.
But you wouldn't need an umbrella, and it'd be 70 degrees.
Right. I like it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Can't imagine what the electricity bill would be on that, but
Look at you all thinking.
right? Welcome to Hanging at the Hangar Bar. I'm Scott.
I'm Candice.
I'm Lariah.
And I'm Lacey. Grab a drink and come hang with us at the Hangar Bar.
Welcome back to the Hangar Bar, everyone. We
Welcome.
are super glad you are here. You have Candice and Scott today. This is going to be a little news-ish kind of episode as we head into fall. We have some spooky season episodes coming up. We have some exciting things happening in the next month or so. But we wanted to do a little bit of a news-like episode. So,
And we don't do these very often, so you know it's big. When we start talking like this, you know it's big.
yeah. So one of the things that Disney recently announced at a shareholders meeting was that over the course of the next 10 years, they're going to be putting $60 billion with a B dollars into their parks and resorts and their cruise line, which is doubling what their planned expenditure was. So that's another $30 billion on top of that, on top of what they had already said they were going to be spending worldwide on Disney parks and experiences. So really exciting. We wanted to talk about that a little bit, what that could mean. And Candice is going to tell you a little bit about sort of the news side of it here in a minute. But one of the things that we wanted to do today was just sort of talk about if we had $30 billion extra dollars to spend on Disney, what would we do? Because they've so far been kind of mum on what that investment is going to be for.
And
so,
I think they have to be.
yeah, because
honestly.
you just never know. Like
Right.
Disney fans are such that you say, hey, we're putting money here and we're putting money here and we're putting money here. They will hold you to it versus there's a lot of planning that goes into spending $30 billion or $60 billion. And they don't want to be hamstrung into things that may not work out or may not be the greatest idea.
Galactic Star Cruiser.
Exactly. So, Candice, why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about the news side of this?
Okay, so as Scott mentioned, this was a recent announcement. Over the next 10 years, they plan to roughly spend $60 billion, including by investing in expanding and enhancing domestic and international parks and cruise line capacity. Bob Iger and Josh D'Amaro were at the helm of this announcement and basically said that they are incredibly mindful of financial underpinning of the company, the need to continue to grow in terms of the bottom line, the need to invest wisely. So we're increasing the returns of invested capital and the need to maintain the balance sheet for a variety of reasons. And they've got a lot to think about because not all that long ago, it seems like a long time ago now, but not all that long ago, they were faced with something that the company had never seen in its history, and that was a global pandemic.
Yep.
Where everything shut down. That doesn't do a lot to a budget sheet bottom line.
No. And that's the other thing is right now, the Disney parks and resorts and cruise line and all that is the only part of Disney that's making money.
Right.
So if you're going to put further expenditures in, you want to put it into the spaces that are making money.
Absolutely.
Because we've talked about it before. Universal is starting to catch up. Mm-hmm. Disney's got to invest in such a way that would make it to where Universal can't catch up.
Right.
Or Disney, if they are trying to catch up, Disney just continues to do it better.
Right.
I know we know a couple of the things that they're working on over the course of the next 10 years. Like they're working on expanding out the cruise terminal in Singapore. They have a new ship that's being launched this year or next that they actually kind of bought and are retheming into the Disney way. Mm-hmm. That's going into the Asian market. So there's going to be more opportunity to do that kind of thing as well. And then what are some of the other things we know they're doing capital expenditure-wise? Epcot's under construction forever.
Maybe that should be the new nighttime show.
Under construction.
Construction forever.
I like it.
There's also been more talk about expanding Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, that's one of the things that they kind of hinted at. Like in one of the news articles I read about the $60 billion expenditure is they have over 1,000 acres worldwide of expandable room. Now, where that 1,000 acres sits, they didn't say, but it was like in all of their parks and resorts combined, they have about 1,000 acres they can use.
Right.
Which is a lot of space, but if you think about it, it's not a lot of space.
Right. Especially when you think of some of like how many acres something like Kilimanjaro Safari takes over. And that's one attraction.
Right.
But you can fit the entire Magic Kingdom park in that space.
Right. Right. They've hinted at things like Beyond Thunder Mountain, that kind of thing.
Revamp Dinoland.
Yeah, D'Amaro came out and said, like, these are just, again, sort of blue sky CEO executives talking, but he's like, we want to invest in the things that are going to have the highest return, like Candice said in that article. So he's like, Frozen has not made its way into Disneyland yet.
And that's fine.
It doesn't have to, Josh, if you're listening. Frozen doesn't have to be everywhere.
See, and if he would call me like I've asked him to 115 times, we would have that conversation.
Right. We would make it right.
Right. And as a shareholder and a super fan, he should listen to me.
He should. You'll have to show up to the meeting and get yourself on the docket to talk.
I don't know about that.
I prefer you call me individually.
Right.
The other thing that he mentioned that, like, more storytelling that they could use, like Coco has not made it into really anywhere yet. There's, like, one place in the Epcot Mexico Pavilion that kind of has a Coco-theme story.
Feel to it.
But, so there's lots of different things that they can do with the IP and expand and that kind of thing as well.
And have it actually make sense.
Yeah, and so... yeah, that's the big news story. That's what we're talking about today.
Right.
And that's all we really know at this point.
And as we've mentioned in previous episodes, Disney is a very financially conservative company. Like, they're not going to try and throw money at things just to throw money at things to spend money, because they do have to be responsible about it.
Yep.
They haven't gotten here 100 years being irresponsible with money.
Yeah, what's funny, though, is... Walt used to throw money around. even if he didn't have it.
He did because he knew that Roy could find it.
Roy could find it, or he bet so much in himself that he knew that it would work out.
But if you look at his history, he had multiple failures before he hit it with Mickey.
Yeah. And Disney's gotten to the point where they can't have that big of failures.
Correct.
So,
correct.
Yeah. As much as we like to say, go back to what Walt would do.
Maybe not so much.
Walt would take the $60 billion and say, I could make a movie with that. It'll be the best thing ever.
But will it?
But will it? That was always Roy's question. Will it? Are you sure? I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Okay, so what we want to do with the rest of this episode is dream about what we would like to see with this extra $30 billion in money that Disney's going to put in. So, Candice, what are some things that you would love to see them do in terms of expenditure into the parks, resorts, and cruise line?
Okay, so quite honestly for me, and this may not be a great idea because I think it would have to be priced in such a way that we probably couldn't afford to do it.
Okay.
But my thought is more along the line of more concierge level type vacationing.
Tell me more.
I don't know. Exclusive is not the right word, but that's the word that I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. So like you plan your vacation, you pay for your vacation, you arrive. And basically from that point forward, you really don't have to think about anything. You have the VIP experiences like the tours and things like that. You have VIP accommodations. You have all the things.
Okay. A Disney all-inclusive.
Yeah. And I know with the way that tax laws are set up in the United States, that's not really I mean, there are a few all-inclusives here and there, but nothing like where they're located in other countries because of the more favorable tax laws.
Half of Castaway Cay is undeveloped.
True story.
Why could they not
put a resort there
on the other half of the island? I don't know what the legality of that would be like, or if it's even developable, but they could have a all-inclusive Disney resort in the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
Again, where they would have to price that to keep, like something like that, I could see that being booked out years.
Yes.
In advance.
Yes.
Like, hey, I'm going to go spend a week at the Disney all-inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And
but I mean, if you think about it, there are other resort brands that for some of their like high-level accommodations are charging $20,000 a week, and they're sold out.
Yep.
On a consistent basis.
Yeah. We're an adults-only podcast, so I'm just going to put this out there. I would prefer that be an adults-only experience.
Agreed.
I don't think Disney could probably ever really get away with that.
Oh, but I think they could.
But that would be pretty amazing.
I think they could. I think there are enough Disney adults in this world. And I'm talking true Disney adults, not entitled Disney adults.
The good Disney adults, not the bad Disney adults.
The appropriate Disney adults. That I think there would be a definite market for that.
Yeah.
And even if they put like a few of those accommodations as Disney Vacation Club, so you could buy into that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, not the whole thing.
Right.
But
yeah.
Or maybe the whole thing, because you can book into Disney Vacation Club accommodations now without being a member.
Right.
As long as there's availability.
Yep. That would also potentially drive more people into the Vacation Club.
Yep.
If that was a way to guarantee yourself into that experience, you have to be a part of the Vacation Club. Mm-hmm. We start talking about it again.
Right. And what if you did like a land and sea situation where you went to Florida, got on one of the ships in Port Canaveral, then Castaway Cay Day comes along and you just go over to your half of the island, stay there for a week, then get back on the ship that takes you back. It would be an extended vacation, but I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, I do too. And I love that way of kind of traveling there. The logistical side of that for Disney would be horrible because they'd have to have empty space on the cruise ship to put you back on.
So they would have to modify their reservations a little bit to allow for that. But I think that you could.
Yeah, it's not impossible. It's potentially doable. I kind of love that idea. See, this is why Imagineering should hire us to just sit in a room and think of good ideas.
I know.
Because we have good ideas.
And we're good at spending other people's money.
We are very good at spending other people's money.
Heck, we're good at spending our own money.
That's also very true. Very, very true. Okay, so what else do you want to see them do with that $30 billion? Let's talk about something more realistic.
Why is that not realistic?
Well, I don't know that they can do that for $30 billion.
That's very true, because if you look at like the Shaman of Song in Navi River Journey, that animatronic alone costs $30 million. And I realize that's a very small percentage of $30 billion, but that's still a lot of money. Like, I can't even imagine either one of those amounts of money.
Right.
But when you're talking about one animatronic costs that much, holy cow.
Exactly.
Okay, so a little bit more realistic. I would like to see them mindfully update some of the things that need to be updated.
Okay, like?
Like, I'm thinking, you hear all the time about, like, Small World breaking down and people getting stuck on it for 90 minutes and having that song torment them. I think we need to leave Drunk Hippo alone because she's hilarious. But just fixing some of the things that need to be fixed. But when I say mindful updates, I'm not talking update for the sake of updating and forgetting where they came from.
Right.
Like, one example of this that I will use is the train wreck that was the Tiki Room under new management when they brought in Iago.
Right.
And tried to change the show. And rightfully so, fans were horrified because it was a mess. And so they went back to the original format. I don't think you should ever mess with the Tiki Room, but I do think that it can be mindfully updated so that it runs maybe a little bit smoother. Mm-hmm. Maybe bring in some of the things that maybe Walt was thinking about, but they didn't have the technology and they didn't know how to invent it. Because one of the amazing things about Disney is that if they needed a certain kind of technology that didn't exist, they made it.
Yes.
And I think they still do.
For sure.
Yeah. So just mindfully updating some of the things that need to be updated so that the magic of those things is still very prevalent and very relevant and very innovative.
Right. Yeah, I get that. Animatronics have come a long way since the 1970s or the 1950s.
Yes.
So updating the animatronics and making them even more lifelike.
Yes.
Because one of the things Walt was proudest of, like using the Tiki Room example, is that the birds breathe.
Right. And they blink at random, like a bird would blink.
Right.
Yeah.
So you could do so much more with the technology of today with computers. And I just didn't imagine the Tiki Room still being run by an old card reader computer system.
But the little notches.
Right. What you could do with connecting an iPad to that.
Right.
Would be pretty amazing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Now, with that said, and just because you said iPad, I'm going to throw this out there. I don't want to see everything go to screens.
No.
I don't want the projected faces on the birds. I want them as they are now, but just running a little bit smoother and a little bit newer.
Yeah. And when I say what you could do with an iPad, I mean as the processing engine behind it.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to put that out there because you know my feeling about screens. And
Yes, I understand completely.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think if I were to say $60 billion over the next 10 years, they probably need to invest 15 of that into park maintenance and upkeep. Mm-hmm. Like, you think about some of the things that need to be done. When it rains in Florida, Magic Kingdom floods. Mm-hmm. They need to figure that out so it drains and it drains properly and that kind of thing.
And doesn't flood the utilidors.
Right, exactly. You need to make sure the people mover doesn't break down. Mm-hmm. Like, I can also see them taking some of that money and expanding the Skyliner to go more places, more resorts, more parks, because like you think, I don't know how much upkeep is for something like the Skyliner, but you get rid of potential buses that you have to pay for gas. And you could never completely get rid of those, because when there's lightning within 10 miles of Disney, they shut down the Skyliner.
Or heavy winds or something
Right.
like that. Yeah, that was kind of what my cringe was for, was just because the Skyliner is so weather dependent that I'm sure it's a fine way to travel. I don't know that it makes a lot of sense where it's located. They could expand the monorail.
Yeah. Again, that's pricier than the Skyliner is probably, but yes. Like, I think they need to have more of those. I can see them trying to become less dependent on fossil fuels. Mm-hmm. Which the Skyliner, install a true people mover.
Yeah.
Just an omni mover.
Yep.
That just kind of slows down at all the different stations to where you can get out if you need to.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I love that idea too, of just like you hop on.
And Walt would love that.
Yeah. And it just goes everywhere you need it to go. And it's powered by magnets.
Yep.
Do the monorails stop moving when there's bad weather?
No.
So yeah, you could even have enclosed little cars, air conditioned, whatever, getting to where you need to go.
Which I think you'd almost want that.
Reduce your reliance. Oh, you would almost have to. The only reason the Skyliner is not air conditioned is because they're high enough and moving fast enough. You get good enough air movement that it cools down.
Right.
I still don't know that I'd want to be in one of those. Like, I've heard of people that get stuck in those for the storms, that like those quick little pop-up storms, because when the lightning goes, they just stop. And if you're in it, you're stuck.
Right, in the air.
Until that storm goes past.
Right.
So in those cases, it would get hot, it would get muggy, just gross. Just hope you're not in one of those, a little kid that needs a diaper change.
Oh.
I'm making it to where Candice doesn't ever want to go on the Skyliner. She's going to be like, I'm only getting on the Skyliner if no clouds in the sky, and I've looked at the weather app, and there's no chance for rain in the next 4.5 days.
And we have a car to ourselves.
Right. That's funny. Okay, so what else? Where else do we want like anything cruise line related that you would love to see them spending money on? They're releasing their Singapore ship and one more ship in the next 2 years. Mm-hmm. Anything else you'd like to? They're opening their second private island next year,
Which I think is going to be amazing.
Yeah, that looks really cool.
I would almost like to see them do like a retro ship. And when I say retro, I mean going back to what the Magic and the Wonder were when they first launched. Like that very traditional grand ocean liner type feel.
Yeah, for sure. I like that idea. I could see them deciding to add another ship too. The cruise line has become so popular.
With good reason.
With good reason, because Disney does it right.
Yeah.
I wish Disney would. They don't have to, but I wish they would get more in line price wise with other lines. But
do you?
I do. Honestly, I think for the price you have to pay on a Disney ship right now, I hold them to a completely different standard that I don't think they're able to meet.
Interesting and kind of saucy. Tell me more.
It's kind of a squirrel moment that probably deserves its own episode, but
Probably.
but kind of high level is Disney is all about service.
Yes.
Disney is all about providing value. If I can go get on a Virgin Voyages ship for a concierge level room for $3,500 or $4,000 for a 6-day cruise, and have that level of service and attentiveness that we got on our Virgin cruise, and then I go get on a Disney ship in a regular balcony stateroom for $6,000, I'm going to be disappointed. because I'm not going to get the level of attentiveness we got on our Virgin ship.
True.
I am not going to have that person that just gives me that unique experience of, hey, here's tickets to this little private show that you can go to. And for the price you pay, you expect that. And Disney will always be a premium. Mm-hmm. I get it, because there's the mouse tax. But is it worth an extra $1,000 to $1,500 for a week just because you get to meet Mickey Mouse? Just because you get to go to a Broadway-style show in their theater? I don't know if it is anymore.
We certainly didn't think so when we went to Alaska.
Yeah.
I mean, that was our first price choice when we were pricing out that trip was Disney, because Disney does cruising right.
Yep.
But when you compared that and then to the line that we actually ended up going on, it was double the cost to get on a Disney ship and go to Alaska. And we had a fabulous time on the ship that we were on, and I don't think we missed out on anything aside from seeing Mickey in his Alaska gear.
Yeah. 100%. 100% agree. And I think that's what they could do. The only way they're going to solve that is by increasing the capacity to a spot where they're not always 100% sold out.
I don't know with Disney that's ever going to happen ever again.
They would have to probably add 2 or 3 more ships.
And go more frequently?
Well, I'm not talking about Alaska specifically. I'm just talking about the cruise line overall, bringing the cost down.
Right.
The only way you're going to be able to do that is at capacity. Because they're pricing based on demand so much right now.
Yeah.
And the same holds true in the parks. And even though Iger is trying to pull back on some of the priciness that has been instituted over the last 3 years, he's trying to pull some of that back, but they're still pricing it based on demand. Demand is so high. Mm-hmm. And they can print money at this point. It kind of drives me nuts. But again, so that's another episode for another day where I bitch and moan about the price of Disney.
Well, and I think we've talked about that before, where the price of Disney for us, I think, is getting a little bit ahead of itself because we don't see the value that we used to.
Right.
It used to be that we had such a magical time on our vacations, be that cruise line, parks, whatever the case was. We'd be like, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. Sold. No questions asked.
Yep.
No concerns. None of that. But anymore, it's like, do we see the same value and the same magic in it that we used to?
Agreed. So can they use some of that $60 billion to bring that magic back? And how do they do it? And we'll wrap up the episode after this. So $60 billion over the next 10 years, can they do that to help bring the magic back for us?
I don't know.
I think they have to invest so heavily in experience. Mm-hmm. That would be the only way for me that they could bring it back. Yes, that might mean the Beyond Thunder Mountain, a Villains Park, or something like that. But they need to invest so heavily back into the live entertainment. They need to invest so heavily into the dining experiences. We talked about that in an episode a few weeks ago when we were talking about potentially expanding the Magic Kingdom, the type of experience you'd have to have in that moment. I think that's how they can use that money to get the magic back. Because you think about when the magic started being dropped for us, it's when they stopped being the leader in terms of entertainment. Mm-hmm. When they removed something like the Muppets, the American history, or the history with the Muppets, but only the American parts. Mm-hmm. From the Liberty Square in Magic Kingdom, when they took that out, when they took out all the other live entertainment things that they've taken out because they're too expensive, in air quotes. That's where they can invest some of that $60 billion over the next 10 years to help me bring the magic back. Those in the moment, quick hitter entertainment things that just, it's not about the ride. It's more about the experience. If they can invest in the experience, that's going to help me find a lot of the magic that I'm currently missing.
Yeah, and I also know that a lot of that for me, coming from a person that is driven by service at heart, is a refresh on cast member service training and reiterating how important that is to a guest. And but so this is a circle that I get myself in, because when I think about this, I'm like, okay, cast members are 100% the magic of Disney. I will die on that hill every single day. They are the meat and potatoes and what makes that company what it is, and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I find myself saying they've got to be more engaged. They've got to be more guest focused, more experience for the guest focused. But at the same time, I think we as Disney guests need to be retrained as well, so that we don't behave like entitled monsters, and we don't start fistfights in the park, and we don't scream at a cast member because we can't get a cheeseburger at 10:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And just some of these whole things, like, yes, you're paying a lot of money to be here, but that does not entitle you to behave like a monster.
Right. And maybe that's where a lot of my magic has gone, is just with COVID, people as a whole became shittier, I think. And Disney can't do anything to invest in that kind of a change. The only way they invest in that kind of change is to spread out the parks more so people aren't so cramped in, which is kind of the new park, the new spaces within the parks, that kind of thing. But I think just that experience, and then also part of that $60 billion, I'm just going to put it out there, should go to pay your cast members more. You want your cast members to be more engaged when they're dealing with people that are kind of rude, pay them more.
And they are they're getting raises.
Yeah.
That was approved several months ago now.
Yeah,
but
through the unions. But
yeah.
I think there's room for more in terms of recognizing and paying cast members what they're probably worth to the overall experience.
Mm-hmm. And with that said, since we are talking about cast members and all of these things, and we're kind of going a news slant on this episode, but we kind of got away from that fairly quickly. Cousin Quinn from 50s Primetime Cafe is celebrating her 20th year with the Disney company coming up here in just a couple days.
That's awesome.
So happy anniversary, Cousin Quinn. We love you. Hopefully when we are there next, we'll get to stop in and see you.
Yes.
But yeah, happy anniversary to Quinn.
That's awesome. I think that's a great place to end this one. Don't you?
I do.
Okay. So thank you all so much for listening. Let us know what you would do with $60 billion of Disney money. What would you update? What would you change? Parks, experiences, cruise line, any of it. You can find us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit. Interact with us on any of those platforms. Call us, text us, whatever you want to do. We want to listen. We want to hear from you. And remember, there is a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
And we'll see you real soon.